to Truth Tellers Mike. We're going to get into a topic of the type of individual we often have in our lives or we have had experienced in our lives. And for many of you, those that may come to experience this, I just want to speak about individuals who are self focused and entitled, and they're very impulsive, right? And so, a sociopath is a popular label for a pattern of behavior most clinicians link to antisocial personality disorder. That means an individual that has constant or chronic disregard for other people's rights, feelings, repeated rule breaking, shallow empathy, and frequent manipulation. But sociopathy isn't a movie villain script. It's a pattern you can learn to recognize in order to protect yourself from. Inside of that individual is shallow empathy. They they can understand what you feel enough to predict and exploit your reactions, but they usually lack deep emotional concern. Their needs, their image and goals come first. Rules, promises, and other boundaries are often obstacles to bypass. Many act without regard for consequences. They lie, exploit, they break rules because short term gain or thrill outweighs future cost. Some are charismatic and calm, others are hot, reactive, and prone to rage. Both styles can be manipulative. People are tools for status, money, influence, supply of attention, and validation. They run a kind of cost benefit calculus. What do I gain? What's the risk? How easily can I get away with it? They mirror and mimic to build trust quickly, right? So they charm, they share stories, and they flatter. They rationalize harm, like blame, minimize, they reframe it, reframe reality so their actions seem justified. They test boundaries deliberately to find what they can take. Small lies, bending rules, and escalating it. Now, you need to watch out for the love bombing, right? Because that's the intense attention early to hook you fast. It's the gaslighting, denying facts, twisting conversations so you doubt your memory or sanity, lying, and plausible deniability. The falsehoods are combined with fragments of truth, triangulation, bringing a third person into conflicts to manipulate perception or loyalty. They blame shift, so they accuse you of what they are doing. They hover, that hoovering concept. After a breakup, they show sudden charm to pull you back in. And when escalation is resisted, they are under pressure. They begin to pressure. They will begin to give threats and, use smear campaigns if you set boundaries. Here's a quick checklist for you: chronic lying or stories that don't add up, extreme charm that feels too fast or performative, repeated broken promises with no responsibility taking, a pattern of using people for gain, frequent conflicts with institution or inability to hold long-term commitments. You feel emotionally drained, confused, or even crazy after interacting with them. Only a mental health professional can diagnose this, but many toxic people are not sociopaths. But still, behavior matters more than labels when protecting yourself. And that comes from their biology, their early environment. But that's not an excuse, right? It's an explanation. But people with these traits can still make choices. Some never hurt others as severely as portrayed in media. So, how do you protect yourself in a more practical sense? Trust patterns, not promises. Words mean little, actions repeated over time matter. Set firm boundaries and enforce them. Say what you won't accept, then act. Limit contact, restrict access. Gray rock when appropriate. Be boring, non reactive. Withhold emotional fuel they crave. Document and back up important communications, texts, emails, if you're dealing with workplace or a legal risk. Create a safety net. Friends, therapists, HR, legal counsel. Don't isolate yourself. No contact is often the healthiest route when abuse is present. If that's not possible, limit and control the interaction channels. So protect your finances and your information. Freeze joint accounts, change passwords, restrict access to your personal data, but also get support through therapy, support groups, or at least a trusted friend to reality check the relationship. And of course, if you're in immediate danger, if you feel threatened or unsafe, involve local authorities or a crisis line. Prioritize your physical and emotional safety. Now, if you need to interact with them long term, your co-parenting is, you're in a workplace, you're going to have to use more written communication and keep things factual and brief. Keep third-party witnesses or HR in the loop for critical interactions. Build routines that don't require trusting them emotionally. Contractualize obligations where or whenever possible. Look these books, The Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout. Without Conscience by Robert Hare. This is a classic. Therapy or support groups for survivors of manipulation and abuse. Final note about labels. It may not be final. Don't get stuck on diagnosis. Focus on behavior and your response. You don't need to prove their diagnosis to protect your life, your boundaries, and your sanity. In their core pattern, they study emotions to imitate them, not to feel them. They don't bond, they bind. Every interaction is either leverage or loss in their mental economy. They live by three rules. Control equals safety. Empathy is weakness, and truth is flexible, right? And they'll use whatever version that wins. So with charm and hooking, right? They do that to gain access. So they want fast intimacy and flattery, They want instant trust. And then they'll test and control through small lies and push the boundary. They map your limits. They like to confuse and exhaust you. The gaslighting, the circular arguments, they break your confidence. Divide and conquer. They will bring others in order to triangulate you and also smear you, gossip about you, because the goal is to isolate you. They discard or they'll hoover. They'll suddenly withdraw, and then there's a reappearance, the hovering. So they want to maintain the control cycle, right? You have to learn to starve the beast. Avoid giving personal information, right? Don't show any visible frustration. No sarcasm, no eye rolling. And exit conversations early, right? And you keep your responses brief, bland, and boring, right? Build a triangle of safety. You may try to get you a truth teller, a protector, and a mirror. Now, a truth teller is the one person who believes you and reminds you you're not crazy. The protector, someone who can intervene, right? HR, lawyer, or family elder, someone, that has some authority or power. And also the mirror. That's the therapist or counselor who helps rebuild self-trust. Because when isolation sets in, it starts small, right? So you have to be careful. Ground yourself. What happens when you're in a relationship with an individual and no contact isn't possible? You may have to use more of the text and email, right? And keep your tone factual and short. No emotional commentary, no blame. If they provoke, wait, breathe, respond hours later, if at all. And always assume messages could be read in court by HR. Again, what are the trusted sources? The Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout, Without Conscience, Robert Hare, Psychopath Free, Jackson McKenzie, Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft. And of course, you have other hotlines and groups of safety, right? And to daily reset yourself, also develop and take on short affirmations. I trust consistency, not charisma. My silence is power, not surrender. I protect my energy the way banks protect vaults. No one who enjoys my confusion deserves my company. Peace is my baseline. Chaos is the warning signal. It's just little uh, affirmations you can use, right, for a reset. Choose one and that you can memorize, right? Because sociopaths don't play by emotional rules. They play by control loops. They study your reactions, not your heart. The only winning move is non-participation. They can charm a room, right? But then they can also twist every truth, make you question yourself. They're not just toxic, they're calculating, right? That's how they work. They run on control, not connection. They mirror emotions to predict reactions, not to empathize. Every interaction is a power exchange. To a sociopath, emotions are just data. They learn your triggers like a system learns passwords. They charm, they test, they control, they discard when you're drained or question them, and they'll hover. They return with nostalgia and charm to restart it all over again. So they study your dreams, they mirror your interests. They move fast though. Small lies, boundary pushes, emotional checks. And they like to isolate and guilt you and confuse you. And you can never love them any better because they're broken. They're built this way. Their empathy switch was never wired for depth. So trying to fix them only deepens your trauma bond. So that's where you have to be cautious when you see someone and you decide that you can help them. You can lead them to the water and they'll drink from it. It is best that you distance yourself, right? Because that creates the trauma bond. You can't heal someone who sees your healing as weakness. And you need to create boundaries that save your sanity. Saying that's not how I remember it. This topic isn't up for debate. My boundaries are not negotiable. Sociopaths feed on reaction, and silence starves the addiction. The moment you stop explaining yourself to a manipulator, you graduate from their game. So protect your energy, protect your truth, and protect your future. So if this spoke to you, hit like, comment, peace over chaos in order to affirm your strength. And share this with someone who's been questioning their sanity, because you're not crazy. You're waking up. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. I'm giving you a continuation of this video, so just bear with me. I felt as though there was more information that I wanted to share. So there are people walking this earth who don't want to understand you. They want to study you. They watch your emotions the way a hacker studies code. They learn your patterns, your weaknesses, your empathy. But the difference is they don't want to connect with you. They want to control you. And by the time you realize it, you've already spent months, maybe years, explaining yourself to someone who was never listening. So these individuals don't process emotion the way most people do. To love them, to them, love is a transaction. Kindness is strategy, and apology is performance. They can imitate empathy, but they don't feel it. They know how to cry without being sad, how to hug without warmth, and how to apologize without meaning a single word. They don't fall in love. They study what love looks like and perform it until they get what they want. They have power in confusion. The more you try to understand them, the more they win because confusion is their currency. They rewrite stories, they twist conversations, and they turn facts into fog. You start doubting yourself and wondering, are you the problem? That's exactly what they want. Your self doubt becomes their control. And when you try to call it out, they call you crazy, emotional, and dramatic. Anything to flip the script. They test you in those small ways first. They start small. A little lie here, a broken promise there, a joke that actually insults you. Then they watch. They're studying. Will you check them or will you smooth it over? Because if you ignore it, you've just trained them how to mistreat you quietly. The trap is emotional dependence. Once they know you care, once they see you have a heart, they weaponize it. They start pulling you close, then pushing you away. They love you on Monday, ghost you on Wednesday, blame you on Friday, then text, I miss you on Sunday. That's not love, that's conditioning. They're teaching your nervous system to crave their chaos. So you confuse drama with depth. And their biggest fear is being exposed. They don't fear consequences. They fear being seen because exposure breaks their illusion of control. They survive by image, by staying charming, believable, and always the victim of someone else's story. The moment you call their pattern out loud, you steal their power. They can't handle truth. Truth burns them like sunlight on a vampire. You can't heal what keeps hurting you. The hardest part is accepting that your love won't change them. You can pray for them, hope for them, wish for their healing, but that healing has to come from a conscience they don't have. You can't teach empathy to someone who views your pain as entertainment. The only cure for a sociopath is distance. Recovery is weakness. It's freedom. You don't recover by getting revenge. You don't recover by getting real about what happened, what it cost, and what you learned. You learn to stop apologizing for your boundaries. You learn that silence is protection. You learn that not everyone deserves access to your empathy. And when you stop feeding them energy, you'll notice something. The peace that returns to your life will sound like a quiet miracle. Sociopaths, that's what I'm calling them, which are manipulators. They don't just destroy your life. They trick you into destroying yourself for them. But the moment you see the game, you stop playing to protect your peace, to guard your energy. And remember, not every smiling face carries good intentions. Some carry blueprints. Know the difference. If this, let me go a little further. They don't want love. They don't want love. They want leverage, right? That's their hidden psychology. How they mirror your emotions and manipulate empathy and then begin to build confusion in order to stay in control. You have to learn how to recognize the cycle early, protect your energy, and reclaim your power. This isn't about revenge, it's about recovery, right? You have to understand something about these types of people. They don't fall in love the way you do. They don't wake up with butterflies or lose sleep wondering if they hurt your feelings. They watch, they study, they take notes. They learn what love looked like. The right text, the right gestures, the right timing. Then they put on that mask like a costume. It's not about bonding, it's about baiting. And the whole time while you're opening up your heart, they're calculating. That's why confusion is their currency. It's not an accident, it's a tactic. They rewrite stories so that yesterday's promise becomes today's misunderstanding. They twist conversations until you're apologizing for something you didn't even do. They take clear facts and turn them into fog so thick, you start doubting your own memory. And the worst part is, when you try to get clarity, They'll cause or they'll accuse you of being paranoid, dramatic, and ungrateful. Anything to keep you off balance. Because the moment you see through the act, the game is over. They want you to feel lost. They want you to second guess yourself. They want you to walk on eggshells. And no, you can't fix it. It's not you. You're not broken. You're being played. And the way out starts with naming what's really happening. They don't love, they study. They don't bond, they bind. They don't connect, they collect. Once you see it, the fog starts to clear, and so does your power, right? Because you're dealing with the mind of a manipulator, right? So, what is it like in the mind of a manipulator? We don't know, because I'm not a licensed professional. But it can't be chaos, not just chaos in there, because they're thinking, they strategize. While you're thinking about connection, they're thinking about control. While you're feeling something real, they're running calculations. What you don't have, that they can use, what emotion they can pull, what version of themselves do they need to perform today? That's what they're looking for. They don't see people, they see opportunities. They don't see hearts, they see handles. Something to grab, to steer, to keep you from walking away. Manipulators build trust the way magicians build illusions, through distraction and timing. They start by studying you, your smile, your fears, what makes you open up. Then they mirror it back to you so smoothly you think, finally someone understands me. But what they're really doing is collecting information. Every secret, every insecurity is ammunition they're going to use for later. And when the time comes, they'll use your own words as weapons. Once they got your trust, they start feeding you small doses of manipulation. A guilt trip here, a half truth there, a story that doesn't quite add up, but you let it slide because no one's perfect. That's the test. If you let the little things slide, they know you'll eventually let the big things slide too. And when you start asking questions, they'll flip the script. Suddenly you're too sensitive. Suddenly you're reading too much into things. But notice something. Your confusion always benefits them. Every foggy conversation leads you further from your own clarity. The moment they feel you pulling away, they'll rush back in with charm, love bombing, grand gestures. It's not because they care. It's because they're losing grip. They'll apologize just enough to reopen the door, but not enough to change. And once you let them back in, the cycle restarts. But this time, the cage is invisible. You begin adjusting your tone, your clothes, your schedule, all to avoid conflict. You start managing their emotion, but no one's managing yours. A manipulator doesn't want love, they want access. They want to be the voice in your head, the filter over your self-worth. They'll drain your confidence, then play savior when you break down. They'll make you believe you can't stand without them, when the truth is they were standing on you the whole time. But the moment you see it, truly see it, everything shifts. Because manipulators can't survive where clarity lives. They thrive in confusion. But once you start seeing patterns instead of excuses, you take back the power they borrowed. The mind of a manipulator is a mirror maze. Every turn looks familiar, but it's all illusion. To escape it, you don't fight harder, you step out. You stop explaining, stop performing, stop proving your worth to someone who never valued truth to begin with. You stop trying to win their approval and start protecting your peace. Because once you stop reacting, their game collapses, and you'll realize something powerful. You were never weak for caring. You were strong for surviving what was designed to break you. But inside the heart of the healed, peace becomes your power. Because they'll come across as too smooth. They'll make you feel seen at first, and then slowly they'll start rearranging your reality. It's quiet, it's calculated. They study people the way chess players study opponents. Every move, every weakness, every reaction. And the game doesn't start when they meet you. It starts the moment you believe them. Manipulators are emotional engineers. They build what you want to see and then they let you walk into it. They watch the way you talk about love, pain, childhood. They find the pattern, then they become it. It's not empathy, it's mimicry. They're not falling for you, they're studying you, learning the gestures of love, the timing of tenderness, the right text at the right hour. It's all data. Data that turns into control later. When manipulation begins, it doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like, I didn't mean it that way. But confusion, that's their weapon of choice. They rewrite stories, they twist conversations, and they turn facts into fog until you can't tell what's real anymore. You start to second guess everything, your tone, your memory, your sanity. That's not an accident, it's strategy. The more confused you are, the more power they have because clarity is control for you. So they can't afford for you to have that. Once they build trust, they start feeding you small doses of guilt. After all I've done for you, you always overreact. You're too emotional. And you start working overtime to prove you're good enough. But that's the trap. Because while you're explaining your intentions, they're rewriting your image. They teach you to crave their approval, so you confuse chaos with connection. They don't love you. They love the control your caring gives them. To them, control is safety. Vulnerability equals threat. And empathy equals leverage. That's the code running in their mind, you know? They feel powerful when you react, weak when you don't. That's why the silent treatment cut both ways. You feel abandoned, they feel dominant. They'll push every boundary until you collapse or conform. And then they'll say, "See, you're finally listening." But you're not listening, you're surviving. Healing starts with one realization. You can't fix someone whose survival depends on your confusion. You break free by stepping back, not by fighting harder. So stop explaining, stop reacting, stop performing peace for someone who profits from chaos. Your calm starves them. Your silence disarms them. When you choose distance, they lose the map altogether. And suddenly, the mask slips because the performance only works with an audience. The mind of a manipulator is a mirror maze, endless reflections and no truth. But you, when you begin stepping into clarity, you stop dancing for approval, you start walking towards your peace. And once you reclaim your energy, you'll see it. All that confusion wasn't love, it was control wearing a costume. Protect your energy like it's sacred because it is, right? You're not crazy. You're just seeing clearly now. That's what you have to recognize. They'll say sorry just enough to get their foot back in the door. Not to change, not to grow, just to reset the game. And the moment you let them back in, the cycle doesn't look the same anymore. The cage isn't metal this time, it's invisible. It's in your head. It's in the way you start questioning yourself, lowering your standards, second guessing what you deserve. That's how they work. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. You don't have to wait for them to give the power back. You can take it. See, recognize the pattern for what it is by stopping the explanations and the bargaining. Keeping the door closed no matter how many sweet words come through the keyhole. Every time you say no and mean it, a piece of your power snaps back into place. Every boundary you enforce is a brick pulled out of their cage. And the moment you choose your peace over their apology, the spell breaks. That's how you take back the power they borrowed. One clear no at this time. One truth told back to yourself at a time until you're standing outside the cage and breathing air they can't touch. Look, they'll apologize again, just enough to reopen the door, but not enough to change. That sorry isn't healing, it's bait. It's their way of resetting the game without earning another round. And when you let them back in, the cycle doesn't look the same anymore. It's quieter now. It's more polished. It's polite. But make no mistake, the cage is still there. It's just invisible. You stop laughing as loud. You start questioning your memory. You shrink your light just to keep the peace. That's how they keep you, not by force, by confusion. But here's the part they never see coming. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the game collapses. You don't need their permission to walk away. You don't need closure from a person who profits from chaos. You take your power back the same way they took it, quietly. One no at a time, one boundary at a time, one day of peace at a time, until one morning you realize the cage door was never locked. You just forgot you had the key. And when you walk out, don't slam the door, just leave it open. Long enough for them to see what freedom looks like without them in it, right? So I wanted to get more so into that. And again, I'm going to end it here and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.